Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Destiny Elysian Tail speedrunning tutorials. I can't even remember which episode this was, but that's actually not even relevant. What we are going to do in this episode, we are going into chapter 4, where we will complete Blackmoor Mountain. And Blackmoor Mountain is quite an interesting area, I would argue. It's actually I would say my favorite area in the speedrun, but it's actually pretty difficult for a beginner, I would argue. One of the reasons why it's so difficult is because it has a very vertical level design in it. Because you're actually supposed to have the ability called the double jump, which does exactly what you would expect a double jump to do. So the level design is kind of based around the idea of you having the double jump, but since this is a speedrun, we actually are not even getting the double jump in the first place. We will skip it because it will waste more time to get the double jump rather than just to skip it. So we will have to use our other movement mechanics to get that verticality that the game wants us to perform, and more about that later when we actually find those techniques relevant. But for now, just head to the left, and there's another of these panorama cutscenes, and you can skip most of these panorama cutscenes in the game, but this is one of the few ones which you can't skip at all. Even if you did the skip you would do in, for example, Mudpot Village, it doesn't skip the cutscene, and trust me, I have tried. So once you're done with the cutscene, jump down. There should be a wolf here. And what I want you to do is to use Dust Storm and Fidget Projectiles to lift up the enemy. I actually showed this in the previous episode, but yeah, I want you to do that so the enemy goes up in the air, and once the enemy is up, you can use it to aerial Dust Storm upwards like this. And then do some aerial dodge cancels to the left until you reach this cave right here. And as you can see, there is a platform above me. The normal way to get there is just to go here and climb these platforms, and boom, you're done. But there's actually a faster way of doing this, which is rather difficult, I would argue, but if you feel confident about your movements, then you can probably try this one. So in the earlier episode I already showed that you can actually use your offensive moves in the air to gain a bit of extra height. So if you do 3 slashes in the air, you can see that each one gives a very slight vertical boost upwards. And if you finish the combo, so XXX, and then finish that combo with an Y, so like that, you do XXXY, you gain even more heights, and then you can finish that combo with what I like to call a base drop, which looks like this. So it's just basically jumping and in the air, press down and Y at the same time, and you do perform the base drop. So if you do XXY combo and then finish that with a base drop, you get the maximum amount of height you can basically get in the air. And you can use that combo to get quite a bit of height, and that can be abused right here. So what I can actually do is, when I'm right in between these two platforms, I jump up, do the XXXY combo, and then finish it with a base drop and land on that platform. The problem is that you can't actually just be here and do the combo, because there's a hitbox at the bottom of this platform, so you can't actually clip through it. So you kind of have to do it from in between of those two platforms, like this. You will probably have some difficulties doing that on your first attempts, but as I said, it's not mandatory. You can just go around and take the normal route, and that wastes around 6 seconds, so it's nothing you should probably worry about. Right. You have the option to go right here. Don't. There's nothing of interest in that direction. So keep ground dashing to the left, and when you are past those two groups of enemies, stop right about here and wait for the enemies to follow you. And when they are like right next to you, start doing the Dust Storm with the Fidget Projectiles to lift the enemies up in the air again, like this. And when they are high enough, do aerial dust storm and try going to the left a bit, because there's a chance you will actually hit the bottom of this platform if you don't go slightly to the left when you boost up. But yeah, here is where you want to go. That actually skips a cutscene. Let me show you. If you didn't do that, what you should do, or what you would do, is you would go here and then jump on this platform, and there will be an unskippable cutscene. Well, unskippable, but it's quite a lengthy cutscene, and we skipped this by doing the lifting of the enemies and then boosting up from them. So that's quite a nice little skip. So in this room, the cutscene is actually telling me...
Well, I see a way up, but I won't be able to reach those ledges without some help.
Let's look around. Maybe we'll find another way to tackle this cliff.
Nope, we can still do this, because we have the Rising Dust Storm, but basically the game is telling me that you should probably not do this before you get the double jump ability, which you would get if you went to the right from here and took these slide spots, but we don't want to do that, because as I said, taking the double jump ability wastes more time than it actually saves. If you were to obtain the double jump ability, you would get the fastest form of movement in the game by abusing the double jump and glitching it basically, but it's still slower to get it, so we are going to skip it and climb these ledges with our Rising Dust Storm. There's going to be a group of enemies here, and there's a platform right above me, so that's where I want to go. So if you are lucky, you can boost from these spots and get up there, but if you don't, just go here and do the aerial dust storm there instead. You will almost almost always get the boost you want from here up to this platform. So yeah, go up from here. You have the option to go up or left according to the minimap, but we should go left first, because there's a kind of main quest thing where you have to destroy 4 pillars, I believe, in this area before you can continue. So we are going to do that. We have to go through these caves. And just use your dodge cancel. And right here there's another section where you can abuse the fact that you can use aerial slashes to gain height. So do the same thing as earlier if you feel like confident enough of doing that. So XXXY and then base drop, and you should be up here. But if you don't like doing that, then just grind against this wall and use your RDS. It's almost equally good enough. It's whatever you prefer basically. Right. Keep touching to the left. There should be a section where you have to slide like this. Do that. And then there's a red barrier right here. Like, it's absolutely there 100% of the time. So you should knock back some of these enemies by doing the full ground attack combo, which is 4 slashes. If you have the auto fire turned on, which is always turned on in casual difficulty, you can just keep holding down X and you do the full combo. There's another pillar right here. Destroy it and catch this cycle if you can. It should be pretty easy to catch. And then go here, and there should be a save points. When you see that little chains in the slope, like this spot right here, this is where you should approximately start using aerial dust storm to the left, because you can get a pretty nice boost from that monster to the left, and the boost will look something like this. Actually, that was bad, but if you fail that boost, there's a backup you can do, which involves lifting enemies up in the air like I did previously and then going up here. That's also a good strat. And yeah, wait for the platform to go all the way up. And here is a section where you can perform an out of bounds skip, which means that I can actually clip through the floor in this level and actually use my Rising Dust Storm to move below the next couple of levels, and that will actually skip a scripted fight. But since the out of bounds skip is actually one of the most difficult things you have to do in any percent, I would advise to not try it when you're just learning the game. So let me show you what the out of bounds skip looks like. I will not explain it. I will do a separate video where I will explain the trick, but for now I will just show you what it looks like. So these platforms are moving up and down, and when they are actually overlapping the actual floor, you can jump down to clip through the floor if you time it correctly. It's a pretty tight timing, like that. So yeah, that now I'm under the floor, and I will use Rising Dust Storm to fly under the next level, and when I'm done with that, I will use Rising Dust Storm to fly up and get back in bounds. God damn it. You see, the problem here is that you most of the time you can't even see a dust itself, so you kind of have to do RDS blind, so you need to trust your inputs with the Rising Dust Storm, and that makes that quite a difficult trick. So I will not explain it right now, but I will show you what you can do instead. It will obviously lose you some time if you don't do that skip, but it's just so difficult that I wouldn't argue that it's worth it when you're just learning the game. When you feel more confident with your movement, you can try it out, and I will do a separate video to tell you how it's done. But for now, there's going to be a red barrier right here. And it's a bad red barrier, and it's also one of the reasons why the out of bounds skip is so good. You don't have to deal with that red barrier, but you can lure the enemies away from the red barrier. And then kind of hope they don't follow you. I don't actually have any optimized strat for this red barrier, because I don't obviously do this strat. But yeah, god damn it. It doesn't help that the spikes are dropping off from the ceiling. But yeah, get through the red barrier one way or the other. hope to not get a level up when you go to the next level. And yeah, there's going to be a scripted fight, and this fight is basically the reason why we do the out of bounds skip. This fight is unskippable, so you have to kill every monster before you can go on. And it's quite a lengthy fight, I would argue. So the best way to approach this fight is to get the enemies closely grouped, so you can damage as many of them at the same time as you can. So yeah, as you can see, it's not the fastest fight there is, which makes the out of bounds skip so good, but it's not too bad if you don't actually do the actual out of bounds thing. And this is where I get back in bounds again. And what we should do here, you can use Rising Dust Storm to go up this platform, but you can also use the little trick I showed earlier, the XXXY base drop. That also works. And then get that bomb by jumping up and going back and forth with your aerial dust storm and blow up this wall. And basically you're done with the cavern, so you can go back now. Once you drop down here, go to the right. And up this little snow thing, there's going to be a small cutscene which you can skip pretty much immediately. And jump up here. Now, there's going to be a couple of avalanches going on during these couple of next levels, and they are pretty problematic. Let me show you what they look like. So basically they will just spawn right outside of your screen, and they will hurt you. And if you just wait in the avalanche, it will usually knock you back on the way where the avalanche is going, so where you came from, and that's not something we want to do. But there's a little trick in skipping some of the avalanche cycles. If you dash into the avalanche, it will actually knock you back to the opposite direction where the avalanche is actually going, and that can save you a bit of time. And let me show you how that saves time. So what you should do on the first level, where the first avalanches take place, is to jump up and start using your Rising Dust Storm. Start working your way up a bit by going back and forth, and when you reach that ledge, a dash into the avalanche, which will spawn like right there. And if you dash into the avalanche, as I said earlier, it will knock you back to the opposite direction where the avalanche is going from. So it basically knocks you back behind the avalanche, so you can kind of skip it. And there's going to be another avalanche right here. Use your Rising Dust Storm to get over it. Not like I just did, but yeah. And do some dodge cancels, jump on this platform and dash into the avalanche. But do notice that the timing for that second skip is actually very tight. So if you can't get it, don't feel too bad, because I fail it all the time myself, because the timing is really strict. So yeah, we are done with the avalanches for now. There is actually going to be one more up ahead, but not for now. There's going to be a monster right there. It's a nice monster where you can get a boost upwards. So maybe do that and start working your way to the left. And in this level, there's going to be another flying enemy right to the left from me. You can see it already. And that is a monster where you want to get a boost from. So you want to boost up from that monster to up left. Let me show you. Like that. And when you are here, you can actually see a platform right above me. And pay close attention to that platform, because there's going to be monsters on top of that platform and you want to boost up from those monsters. So, like that. That is the fastest way of completing that room. And in this room there's going to be a save point. It's actually a nice visual cue, because there's... I do pretty specific movement in this room to ensure that my strat works. So when you're standing on the save point, you're supposed to do 4 dodge cancels to the right, exactly 4. And when you have done 4 dodge cancels, you will use your aerial dust storm to boost up right. So 4 dodge cancels and then boost up from the enemies, which will be to the right from you. Let me show you how it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then boost up. If you're unlucky, you will get hit by the avalanche. Let me try that again. And I do a very slight back and forth movement in the air to ensure that I don't actually hit the avalanche. So that skips an avalanche cycle. When I think about it, my timing works because I'm doing a ground dodge animation cancel right at the end, which is something beginners don't normally do. So the timing might be a bit different for you, so you may need to find a spot that works for you, like maybe start a little further back from the save point and then do 4 dodge cancels, I don't know. 1, 2, 4. Yeah, that seems to work without my little animation cancel thing. So yeah, try experimenting where's the spot where you can get a nice boost from, because that's pretty consistent if you find a good setup. There's going to be one of these buffalo monsters or whatever they are. You want to lure it to the left, because if you don't, it will cause a red barrier. It's one of the enemies which you can't stun lock with fidget projectile, so you want to lure him away from the red barrier. Jump up using these platforms. Maybe take a boost from those monsters. Keep heading to the right. Jump on top of that platform and go here. And go to the right. As you can see, there are more of these monsters which can basically blow up. I'm not sure if we saw any of these previously in the speedrun. I don't think we did. But anyway, you want to take a boost from that and then just dodge to the left so you land on this platform, so it will break for you and you can go to the next level. So right here, I'm actually not sure which strat I should show you, but let me show you both of the strats you can do in this specific room, because there's actually 2 ways you can take here. The first way is to do this combo to the enemy, so that's basically doing just XY on the ground, so it will uppercut the monster, so it will go upwards, and when the monster is up there, you can take aerial boost, like that, go back and forth a bit. And then, here, you should land on one of these moving platforms, so you can get an extra jump to get over those spikes, and then just keep using your Rising Dust Storm until you're done with all the spikes, and then go here. But there's another way of doing that room, which I will show you, if you want to try something else. Sorry. Yeah, let me just Go all the way back and reset the enemy positioning, because that's a pretty important aspect in this room. So yeah, jump up here, then there's going to be a moving platform. Use that and use these platforms. Take a boost from that monster and jump down to this bit. And when you're down here, take boost from that monster and sneak through those spikes. That's the strat I use, because it's very slightly faster than taking the upper routes, but I would argue that it's a bit more challenging to do. Next up is going to be one of the worst rooms in the game for beginners, but personally I love this one, because I can do some really cool movement abusement, skip a couple of cycles. So let me show you how this room looks like. There's going to be a rising platform, and as you can see, it's really slow, but you can't actually see it right now, but there's going to be another moving platform right above me, and we can actually catch that platform if we are clever with our movements. And let me show you how that is done. This is actually pretty advanced stuff, so if you can't quite figure it out on your first attempts, don't feel afraid to just take the cycles normally, because this strat I'm doing in this room saves about 10 to 15 seconds, so it's not that much. But what I do is I catch the first cycle right there, and then I dodge all the way to the right until I reach that wall. And when I reach this wall, I will start using RDS against this wall to go upwards until I touch those spikes. I intentionally take damage from those spikes, so I get sent to this spike right there. And when I'm here, I actually have some invincibility frames, because when you take damage you get these invincibility frames where you can't take damage, and I abuse that fact pretty heavily in this room. So when I land on this platform, or land on these spikes, I can actually jump up from these spikes and jump up here using my Dust Storm. So when I land on these spikes, I still have my invincibility frames, so I will not take damage. And when I have landed on top of these spikes, I can just use my XXXY base drop combo to reach the platform above me, like this. There you go. That's how you skip a cycle. It's pretty advanced mechanic, but it's something you can try out, because trying to skip the cycle is literally free. Right. One thing to note about this room: if you get a red barrier like this, what you can do to avoid the red barrier is to load the save file which you just created on the save point right there, and then just go there. That's a cool way how to skip the red barrier. And one thing to note is that there's, as you can see, there's actually wind pushing me to the left here, but you can't actually see the wind itself. The reason why that is the case is because I have disabled weather effects, and if I turned them on, you would see what it looks like. So there's going to be a snowstorm going on, but when you are streaming this game and streaming your speedruns, you are using quite a low bit rate to make sure that you can actually broadcast your video footage live. And since you're using low bit rates, any kind of particle effects will cause blur to happen in your video feedback. So if I was streaming and I had weather effects turned on, this would cause massive blurring in the stream itself, and the stream would look really bad. So that's why I like to keep my weather effects turned off, just so the stream doesn't look bad. So yeah, take these platforms. Keep heading to the right. And hope to not get a red barrier. Boost up from those monsters. And there's going to be another buffalo at the bottom of this map. And he will cause you quite a bit of trouble if you don't take actions to prevent him. So what you want to do is, you want to slide and enter a rising dust storm. to skip him entirely, because if you drop down here, he will be super aggressive and it will be difficult to get back up again. So yeah, maybe you probably want to try the little technique involved in climbing the vines, like this. You couldn't actually see my inputs in the previous episode because I kind of failed my my thing. That's actually my phone, I will call him later. So yeah, keep heading to the left until you reach this platform and jump up. And drop down here until you reach this platform right here. Pay attention that if you don't reach this platform, you will drop quite a long distance down, so make sure to land on this platform and not fall down. Jump up. Once again, using the aerial slashes, you can reach these platforms pretty easily. Like this, you don't even have to do base drops or anything, you can just do a couple of aerial slashes and you can reach the platform. So in this room I will actually show you what happens if I just keep heading to the left. It's going to be a cutscene. After this, there's going to be a soldier basically telling me to halt, and then I need to do a fight against him and all these guys. And the problem is that these guys really like to parry you, and that's pretty annoying. And luckily there's a way to skip this fight, so I'm not even bothering with that. So again, I'm jumping up these platforms. And then, when you are on this platform, start using your Rising Dust Storm to just go upwards, up in the air. And do this as long as you reach, or do this until you reach the top of the level, and then start using Rising Dust Storm to the left. And when you see this tree below me, which is actually brighter than the rest of the trees in the background, you can start using aerial dodge cancels to the left. And that skips the fights, and the reason why it skips it is for the same reason we have skipped other cutscene triggers. It's because the trigger doesn't actually extend to the top of the map, so there's a little hole where you can sneak through without actually triggering the fights, which is pretty nice. So get into this house, and there's a couple of cutscenes which you have to watch before you can continue. So just skip this as fast as you can. You probably need to learn the timing to be optimal, but just skip the cutscenes and exit the house again and go to the left. And thus we are done with Blackmoor Mountains, probably one of the most difficult areas for beginners to learn. But as long as you're not doing the out of bounds thing or the out of bounds skip, you should be fine. And our next stop is Evernaw Basin. You can go straight here, but if you want to save around 7 seconds, you can try something interesting. You can try to do fail storage again, which I showed you in the second episode of this tutorial. So when you go to this village and enter the right entrance of the village and go next to this guy and force him to walk to the level exit, you should talk to him right before you actually enter the world map. So the dialogue will not pop up just as of yet. But when you go to the next area, the dialogue will actually pop after this chapter cutscene. So it will show up right here.
Please, let me know if you come across those materials.
I'll keep my eyes open.
Much appreciated. I'll be waiting right here.
So you can actually just skip that. I watched it because I find that cutscene quite amusing. It's the accent which makes it pretty ridiculous. So yeah, that dialogue actually skips the panorama cutscene that will play at the beginning of this area. So that's a nice 7-second time save. But yeah, that's it. We are done with this, not the second area. We are done with chapter 4, and there is only one more episode to go. So yeah, thank you guys for watching another episode. Hopefully this was helpful as all the other ones. And see you in the last episode.